When Dorothy Arzner retired from filmmaking, she had been Hollywood's only female director for more than 15 years, starting in 1927. She directed 17 feature films at Paramount, RKO, Columbia, and MGM. Her films focused on women's stories and featured strong female leads. She worked with prominent actresses such as Clara Bow, Ruth Chatterton, Katharine Hepburn, and Joan Crawford. But to this day, it remains something of a mystery why she was the sole woman to have a directing career in Hollywood at that time. This is the story of a truly unique filmmaker. Welcome to Hollywood Mysteries. Arzner was born in San Francisco, California in 1897 to Janetta Nee Young and Louis Arzner. She grew up in Los Angeles where her father owned the Hoffman Cafe, which she described as a famous Hollywood restaurant next to a theater. The restaurant was popular with Hollywood stars and directors, including Mary Pickford, Mack Sennett, and Douglas Fairbanks. Arzner completed high school at the Westlake School for Girls in Los Angeles and attended the University of Southern California for 2 years, studying medicine to become a doctor. During World War I, she joined a local ambulance unit in Southern California. However, after working in a surgeon's office one summer, Arzner realized she did not want a medical career. "I wanted to be like Jesus," she said, "heal the sick and raise the dead, instantly, without pills, surgery, etc." Such ambitions sound almost like magic, so perhaps it's not surprising that she soon turned her attention to the magic of cinema instead of the harsh realities of the medical profession. After World War I, the film industry needed workers. Arzner saw this as her chance to enter the industry. It was possible for even inexperienced people to have an opportunity if they showed signs of ability or knowledge, she said in a 1974 interview. A college friend suggested she meet William C. DeMille, a leading director at famous Players Lasky Corporation, which owned Paramount. Arzner recounted to the Sunday Star in 1929 how her friend believed she was well suited for the industry. "Then she drove me over to the Paramount studio and dumped me out in front of the main office," she said. As it turned out, the timing was excellent. There was a flu epidemic and the lot was practically empty, apart from the apparently robust DeMille. When Arzner met DeMille in 1919, he asked her which department she wanted to start in. "I might be able to dress sets," she replied. DeMille asked her a question about the furniture in his office which she couldn't answer, so that was one job application that had already failed. He then suggested she explore the various departments for a week and talk to his secretary to see what she could do. Arzner spent the week observing sets, including Cecil DeMille's. She concluded, if one was going to be in this movie business, one should be a director because he was the one who told everyone else what to do. She moved up to become the sole cutter and editor at Real Art Pictures Corporation, a small Paramount subsidiary. She edited 52 films there from 1920 to 1922. Paramount later asked her to edit and cut Blood and Sand in 1922, a follow-up to Rudolph Valentino's successful The Sheik from the previous year. She also filmed some bullfighting scenes for this film, marking her first experience as a director. Director James Cruise valued her editing and writing skills, hiring her to edit The Covered Wagon and to write and edit Old Ironsides. Her time as an editor was one of the most satisfying of her career. She explained, "Nobody could bother you, and you could do things with the actors. You could cut them off if they were no good, and you could cut off their long, draggy exits and cut through the other side into something else, so that you'd get them out of the room." Arzner's directing career at Paramount began after she took a writing and directing job at Columbia Studios. She had been writing scripts for Columbia, which planned to hire her as a director. Having observed directors at Paramount like James Cruise and DeMille, she felt well prepared. But when she went to bid farewell to Paramount executives B.P. Schulberg and Walter Wanger, they asked her to stay and direct for them instead. She agreed, but only if the far more prestigious Paramount allowed her to direct A pictures rather than B movies. In January 1927, Arzner got her first film assignment. She was to write and direct Fashions for Women, a production based on a French farce starring Esther Ralston, a rising star from 1924's Peter Pan. The media were fascinated. Lasky names woman director ran one excited headline. Many have wondered how Arzner found her way in a presumably hostile environment for a woman, but Arzner was the first to dismiss this idea. She said that Cruz, Wanger, and Ben Schulberg were extremely supportive of her, saying, "No one gave me trouble. In fact, men were much more helpful than women." The only thing Paramount insisted on was a director who knew what he or she wanted, and as long as they were firm in their vision, Paramount would give them everything. Arzner was always clear about exactly what she wanted her films to be. After her next film, 10 Modern Commandments, which also starred Esther Ralston, was well received, she was given a Clara Bow project, Get Your Man, in 1928. This showed the producers' confidence in her skills since Bow was one of their top stars, and they would not have risked her on a director who they didn't completely believe in. Her job was to keep Clara Bow at the center of the action and maintain a lively pace. The romantic comedy, now partially lost, was well reviewed, and photoplay was particularly complimentary about Arzner's beautiful cinematography. Arzner's last silent film, although technically it was a part talkie, was Manhattan Cocktail from the following year. The film starred Nancy Carroll in what was apparently an entertaining melodrama, although only 1 minute of the film survives today. In 1929, Schulberg tasked her with an even bigger responsibility. He picked Arzner to direct Bow's first talkie, The Wild Party. The studio would have been happy enough if Arzner had provided a smooth entry into the world of talkies for their #1 star. She achieved that and went one better by revolutionizing the sound recording techniques of that era. Bow struggled to adapt to using microphones. During her first line, a microphone reportedly exploded, causing technical issues at the studio. Bow was very anxious about the new sound system, so Arzner tried to help her by inventing what is believed to be the first boom microphone, which allowed the microphone to be placed more flexibly. This gave Bow the freedom to move around while filming. A silent film version was also released for theaters that didn't yet have sound equipment. The film received mixed reviews, with much discussion focusing on Bow's thick Brooklyn accent. One critic called her voice a smooth contralto, vigorous and natural, while another described it as having a harsh tonal quality that is not very easy on sensitive eardrums. Despite these mixed reviews, The Wild Party did well at the box office and confirmed Dorothy Arzner's talents as a director. This success marked a high point in Arzner's career. A woman director wasn't a novelty for Variety reviewer Sid Silverman, who commented that Miss Arzner handles situations sufficiently well to make it breezy and easy on brainpower. At Paramount, the film was known as the all-woman production. In addition to the star and director, the screenwriters and business manager Henrietta Cohn were women. Marion Morgan, Arzner's lifelong companion, was the technical director for the museum scenes. Hope Loring wrote the screen story, and Alice Laser handled continuity. It took many years before another Hollywood film had such a team of women. In 1930, she directed 2 films with Ruth Chatterton, a popular star at the studio. Sarah and Son with Frederick March was a hit, and critics praised Arzner's restrained direction. Her next Chatterton film, Anybody's Woman, was satisfactory but not as successful. The film used another clever device invented by Arzner to convey sound, with an electric fan blowing a conversation across a hotel courtyard. Arzner co-wrote her next film, Honor Among Lovers, which was filmed in New York. It was intended to be a smart comedy but ended up being slow-paced and melodramatic. It starred Claudette Colbert and Frederick March. Arzner had seen March on stage and liked his work. He had also appeared in The Wild Party and Sarah and Son, and would star in Arzner's final Paramount film, Merrily We Go to Hell, in 1932. Arzner didn't face much interference at Paramount. She made films her way. She had 3-year contracts paid weekly. She had a regular crew including cameraman Charles Lang and costume designers Adrian and Howard Greer. This system of filmmaking worked smoothly for both her and the studio, so it was a surprise when their relationship came to an end in 1932. That year, Paramount, like many other studios, was struggling with a serious deficit of over $15 million. Many employees, including Schulberg, were forced to leave, and the remaining staff faced salary cuts. The studio offered Arzner a new contract with reduced pay, which she declined. With new executives in charge and her supporters gone, Arzner decided to freelance. It is widely believed that Dorothy Arzner was a lesbian based on her style of dress and behavior. She did not discuss her private life, but did not hide her sexual orientation either. Many photos show Arzner in her usual attire of pants and a jacket or a straight-cut suit. She often wore different suits each day while filming. This was quite unusual for a woman in that era. Over her career, she was rumored to have had intense relationships with some of Hollywood's leading women, which we'll get into later in the video. What we know for sure is that she had a 40-year relationship with dancer and choreographer Marion Morgan. Morgan, 10 years older than Arzner, had been married and had a son. She led a dance troupe and choreographed dance sequences for some of Arzner's early films. In 1930, Morgan disbanded her dance troupe and moved with Arzner into a home in Hollywood. They remained companions until Morgan's death in 1971. While living in Hollywood, Arzner was also part of the social scene, attending film premieres and events and often dining publicly with Hollywood figures, including her good friend Billy Burke. While it seems extraordinary that she was the only woman, and a lesbian at that, working as a director in Hollywood, it also seems to be the case that her career was far smoother than a large number of her male counterparts. The simplest answer may be that she was just exceptionally good at her job, and so no one ever thought to get in her way. After directing 9 films in 5 years at Paramount, Arzner never had another long-term contract. Over the next 10 years, she directed only 6 films. In her first 2 years of freelancing, she made 2 films, but the intervals between her projects eventually stretched to 2 and then 3 years. Her first freelance offer came from David O. Selznick at RKO for the 1933 film Christopher Strong. Anne Harding was initially cast as the lead, but she was replaced and Arzner chose a rising young actress whom she had noticed around at the studio. Her name was Katharine Hepburn. Arzner believed Hepburn embodied the modern, independent, and courageous woman needed for the role of an aviatrix. Arzner explained, she had given a good performance in Bill of Divorcement, but now she was about to be relegated to a Tarzan-type picture. I walked over to the set. She was up a tree with a leopard skin on. She had a marvelous figure, and talking to her, I felt she was the very modern type I wanted for Christopher Strong. Hepburn was rather more terse when looking back at the film that shot her to fame. She wrote in her autobiography, she had done many pictures, was very good, she wore pants. So did I. We had a great time working together. The script was a bit old-fashioned and it was not really a successful picture. Colin Clive played the man. Perhaps Hepburn was still in Tarzan mode when she wrote that, but the New York Times managed to elaborate a little more on the qualities of Christopher Strong, writing, "Intelligence shines through this offering, not only in the unusually effective delineation of characters by the players, but also in the cinematic angles. As a study of worthwhile screen work, it is, however, far above mediocre shadow adventures. It is a film that can be seen several times without becoming tedious." Arzner paid special attention to Billy Burke's performance as a betrayed wife, the first of 3 roles Burke would play in Arzner's films. Arzner collaborated closely on the film with Zoe Atkins, who had written 3 films for her at Paramount in 1931. Despite the combined efforts of the director, writer, and actors, the film did not succeed at the box office. Nonetheless, Hepburn's apparent unwillingness to discuss her time working with Arzner may be due to the fact that rumors were flying around Hollywood that Arzner and Hepburn had engaged in a romantic affair during the shoot. Arzner's next project was for Samuel Goldwyn, who was at that time an independent producer with his own studio. Goldwyn had signed Anna Sten, a beautiful Russian-born actress, to compete with stars like Garbo and Dietrich. Sten, who did not speak English upon arriving in Hollywood, studied hard before filming began. The chosen story was Nana, based on Emile Zola's 1880 novel. The initial director, George Fitzmaurice, clashed with Sten and requested to leave, causing the already shot scenes to be discarded. Goldwyn then tried to hire George Cukor, but he was too busy. Having seen and liked Christopher Strong, Goldwyn hired Arzner to guide Sten's performance. Despite multiple rewrites by several writers, Arzner was not satisfied with the script and wanted a stronger version. The final script toned down the man-eating heroine of the novel and set up a more complex female character. Goldwyn provided Arzner with everything she needed for sets, lighting, and a cameraman, hoping she could bring out a star-making performance from Sten. Arzner found this task impossible, saying, "The only thing I could do was not let her talk so much." Nana, Arzner's only film for Goldwyn, was a box office failure, and Sten wound up a long way from the heights reached by Garbo and Dietrich. In October 1934, Arzner signed with Harry Cohn at Columbia Pictures as an associate producer, becoming the only woman producer in Hollywood, as well as the only director. By early 1935, she planned to produce and direct Feathers in Her Hat, starring Alice Brady. Arzner and casting director Bill Perlberg went to New York to audition talent. However, this effort did not materialize into a film, and her contract ended without completing any projects. In June 1936, Cohn signed Arzner on again to direct Craig's Wife, based on a successful play. She wanted Rosalind Russell, then relatively unknown, to play Harriet Craig due to her strong dialogue delivery. Arzner, aiming to stay true to the play and maintain control, kept the script away from Harry Cohn's constant interference. Although the acting and directing received fine reviews, the film was again not a major success. In August 1936, Arzner joined RKO to direct a solo film for Ginger Rogers, originally intended to be a version of Mother Carey's Chickens. The start date was set for October, but filming was delayed and eventually postponed to January 1937. Variety reported that Arzner spent this time gardening. Her contract with RKO ended without finishing the project. Mother Carey's Chickens was later made by RKO in 1938, starring Anne Shirley and directed by Roland V. Lee. Arzner next took on The Last of Mrs. Cheney, starring Joan Crawford and William Powell for MGM. The film had already been in production for some time when director Richard Boleswalski fell ill and died. His replacement, George Fitzmaurice, then also fell ill and couldn't continue, so Arzner was asked to complete the picture. The film was profitable and was also the beginning of Arzner's working and alleged romantic relationship with Joan Crawford. However, Arzner later said she disliked Louis B. Mayer, and one of the reasons was that he had asked her to work with Crawford, who was declining in popularity. Mayer characteristically also made many unfulfilled promises about the film. Arzner felt out of place at MGM, uncomfortable with the large sets and lavish production. She thought the film was synthetic and it was not among her favorites. Reviews and box office returns were lukewarm. Crawford's performance was acceptable, but Arzner felt the role would have suited Rainier better. Nonetheless, she would make another film with Crawford that year, The Bride Wore Red. In this rags to riches story, Crawford portrays a cabaret singer who pretends to be an aristocrat. This movie marks the final collaboration of the 7 films that Crawford made with her co-star and then husband, Franchot Tone. The New York Herald Tribune was not impressed with the film, writing, "The film has no dramatic conviction and little of the comic flavor that might have made it amusing, though slight. Your enjoyment of it will depend on how much of Miss Crawford you can take at one stretch. The direction of Dorothy Arzner is always interesting and sometimes is extraordinarily imaginative, but here she has not been able to give a vapid Cinderella pipe dream more than a handsome pictorial front." Several years later, in May 1940, Arzner took over directing Dance Girl Dance at RKO after the original director Roy Del Ruth left due to conflicts with producer Eric Palmer. Arzner discarded Del Ruth's footage and, working with Edith Noyes, reworked the script to highlight the conflict between Maureen O'Hara's classical ballerina and Lucille Ball's burlesque dancer. The unusual story revolves around 2 strong and independent young women aspiring to careers in dance. Judy is a talented ballet dancer, an art that demands refined skill and elegance. However, her dreams are hindered by the loss of her mentor and her financial struggles. Bubbles, on the other hand, lacks refined dance skills but makes up for it with her attractive, dynamic presence. She capitalizes on these traits in her striptease performances. While Judy and Bubbles are interested in men, love and marriage are not their main goals. They both like the charming and handsome Jimmy, but are quick to let him go. Judy gracefully accepts his preference for his ex-wife, and Bubbles frees him from their drunken marriage. By the end, there's a suggestion that Judy and Steve might develop a deeper relationship beyond teacher and student. Lucille Ball shines as a flashy dancer with a strong but generally sympathetic personality. Maureen O'Hara's character, although young and delicate, is equally strong if not as showy. Lewis Hayward's character creates conflict between the women, leading to a dramatic brawl. His easy exit from their lives shows that these women are independent and do not need a man to succeed. In fact, O'Hara opened the film with a powerful line, saying, "I know you want me to tear my clothes off so you can look your 50 cents worth. 50 cents for the privilege of staring at a girl the way your wives won't let you." The film initially received lukewarm reviews, didn't attract much of an audience, and failed to recoup its costs. However, later analysis has seen it in a far better light, especially given its rare role as a piece of relatively complex feminist cinema from the Hollywood Golden Age. In 2002, Dance Girl Dance was named one of the Society of Film Critics' 100 Essential Films. In 2007, the Library of Congress preserved Dance Girl Dance in the United States National Film Registry. 3 years later, Columbia producer Harry Joe Brown hired Arzner to direct First Comes Courage, a story set in Nazi-occupied Norway, starring Merle Oberon and Brian Ahern. Arzner nearly completed the film, handling all the location shots and fight scenes before falling ill with pneumonia. She had to withdraw and another director finished the project. Arzner was bedridden with pneumonia for nearly a year. After recovering, she retired from directing, simply stating, "Pictures left me." At Paramount, Arzner followed a typical director's pace, making 9 films in 5 years. In her final 11 years, she directed at most 1 film per year. The decline in her filmmaking during her freelance years wasn't due to quality. Her films were on par with other A-list directors. Box office returns, however, were mixed. While some films were profitable, others were not. Male producers might have hesitated to hire a woman director, except for her initial supporters at Paramount. Her insistence on creative control might have also deterred producers. Arzner's films are skillfully made. They often focus on women's issues, the challenges faced by female protagonists, and the relationships between women. Her understanding of female actors helped them deliver realistic performances, and she got the best out of some major stars either towards the end or the beginning of their careers. In recent years, her importance in Hollywood history has been revised, and there is a renewed interest in her life and work, which was truly unique. It has been long rumored that Todd Haynes is due to make a biography of Arzner's life, which would be a wonderful thing to see. Until that happens, we hope you enjoyed our look into one of Hollywood's most pioneering directors. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and why not check out the perks of our members area and Patreon, where we go into even more obscure Hollywood history. That's all for this episode. Sweet dreams.